And are you refreshed? Good.
Thank you for this opportunity, Abraham. I've sat in this hot seat before, and I just have one request, that you let me ask the questions before you answer them. I'm nervous and I get really flustered when you start answering them, and then I have to jump around the page to find the next question. So
then we don't know why you sat here, because we've already answered.
I know, and I've been crossing out, and it's been hard. So.
All right, you tell us when we have your permission to speak.
Perfect. Much of the United States, perhaps all of the United States, has changed by the events of the last weeks. But in this area, and for those listening on tape, we're in Tarrytown, New York, which is less than 30 miles from Ground Zero. These events have literally hit home, and I suspect many people in this room have personally been touched by the terrorist attacks. I've been an Abraham student for almost 2 years, and although I haven't mastered all of the teachings by any means, I've at least understood the concepts. In light of the World Trade Center bombings, I'm now having trouble applying the teachings, and I have 2 specific examples. You've explained that the universe will continue to expand or evolve or create no matter what we do in physical form. It can't help but evolve. And our inner beings will enjoy the process of this evolution no matter what our physical beings feel. And one of your purposes, Abraham, was to help us try as physical beings to enjoy the process of this evolution, just like our inner beings enjoy this process during the unfolding. You've given the example that in hard times, our physical beings are like on a small boat on a raging sea. We're tossed around, and it's very perilous, and we're very fearful. But our inner beings are hovering silently, smoothly, in a helicopter above, looking down, with not much attachment to any particular outcome of an event.
Oh.
Yep.
Sorry.
You want to correct that story?
Everything that you said could not have been said more perfectly, except that your inner being who is hovering safely does have powerful connection to the outcome, because it is soaring on the stream of the rockets of desire that have been emanating from you. In other words, your inner being is desiring that your desire be fulfilled and is rooting for you, coming into vibrational connection with it, but not rooting with you so much that it joins you in your disconnection.
Much better said. Okay. Can you help me wrap your teachings around this disaster from 2 perspectives? And I love the adjectives you always use. You use deliciousness and joyfulness. What is the deliciousness of these bombings? And intellectually, I guess I've seen the way New York has come together. I've seen the nation pull together. You mentioned that during the bombings, the rockets of desire have shot into the sky, and you've never seen globally the well-being ever be so high. Well, what were us New Yorkers, just a bunch of sacrificial people? I mean, the well-being in this city, has this never been so high? I guess as a nation, as a world, maybe well-being is better, but right here, it doesn't seem so good. So as an inner being looking down, what is the deliciousness right now? Because from a physical being standpoint, it doesn't look so good.
We're going to answer your question fully, but before we do, step back with us just a little bit. We want to ask you a few questions. Have you known of others dying prior to this event?
Yes.
And are you aware of others suffering for any number of reasons prior to this event?
Yes.
So you acknowledge that spattered around your planet are little event vortexes where culminations of vibrations come together and conclusions are lived that the majority of people, if they were looking on at it, would not want to be part of it.
Exactly.
So If you're driving cross country and you see an ambulance wailing down the freeway, you say, oh, there is a pocket of trouble somewhere, but it is not where I am. And you see a fire truck wailing down the freeway and you say, oh, there is a pocket of trouble somewhere, but it is not where I am. And then you come to a big traffic jam where there is an accident that has happened and you say, well, there is a culmination of vibrations that is happening there, but it really does not have anything to do with me. And sometimes we hear those like you or those like Esther saying, well, I can feel that I'm really clicking into my well-being because not only have I not had a traffic accident, but I can't even remember the last time I saw a traffic accident. I'm not even coming up on them after the fact. I used to discover them right after and I say, boy, that was a near miss. I wasn't in the middle of that. One day someone said to us, it was a really close call. It was such a near miss. And we said, there really are no near misses because the universe doesn't sort of dabble in creation. Everything that is a vibrational match is a vibrational match. So then someone might say, well, then how did this all play out in this specific way that it did? We can do this only scantily because it would take all of the rest of your lifetime if we were to get into the vibrational countenance of every factor involved. But let's talk about it in general just for a little bit.
I'm having trouble. I've seen plane crashes before and I've been sad, but I've seen buildings explode. This is different. I think
Why is it different?
Because of the magnitude of it. 5,000 people. And then I began thinking, these are 5,000 people who in one moment were so locked off from source energy.
Well, now that you can't assume.
That they weren't all locked off?
Well, is that what death is? Is death locked off?
I thought it was, that they don't allow source energy.
Now, let's talk about this.
Okay.
If in the moment of death there is an instant reemergence into pure positive energy, isn't it possible that some could be reaching for well-being and finding it in that way? This is the biggest boogeyman that physical people have given to physical people, and that is that death is a punishment. And we know how you get there. You give it to people you hate. In other words, you give them the death penalty, and you get so wrapped around in that every time somebody dies, you assume that they're locked off, or you assume that they're being punished in that way, and you cannot make that assumption. It was a culmination that was perfect, but the assumption that everyone was locked off is not accurate. It's possible you can get yourself pinched off. In other words, it's possible that you could really, really, really want to live and really, really, really want to stay in this physical body and really, really, really be pushing against a lot of things and find yourself in a culmination where you really, really, really disallow life in that way. There are a number of topics to discuss here, and we may get off your paper for just a little bit, but we'll come back on it. There have been many more physical beings make their transition in one simultaneous event in very recent days, even here upon your planet. In earthquake experiences and warring experiences, there have been greater withdrawals from the physical focus into the non-physical. We think the thing that makes this one stand out so much more is that when an earthquake happens, you say, well, God did it, and no one dares be really mad at God. There's no blame attached to it. And so you don't get disconnected for so long because there's not something so much to push against. Where when it is something that you can see an immediate reason for, and there are culprits that you can now easily push against. You may have heard us say some time ago that blame really feels better than guilt. And for that reason, many of you will want to blame someone outside of yourself than feel your own guilt. We're not talking about this incident. We're talking about in any situation. They're both terrible choices, but one does feel a little better than the other because one feels like I'm powerfully in control, getting to do something about it. In other words, blame feels more like asserting my power, while guilt feels more like being the victim of something. And in the same way, anger feels better than fear. And so we think that part of those dynamics are taking place. We're not trying to make light of the event because it is a big event and it is an important event. We are just asking you the question, do you need things to always go well or mostly go well in order for you to accept well-being? Because if the answer is yes, I prefer it that way. And when things go wrong, I think somebody at some higher level should do something about it. We say, therein lies your trouble. Someone says, why would God let something like this happen? And we say, God allows the free will of the physical experience. And it is all being sorted out by the dynamics of the vibration that are involved. And nothing that is ever out of sync with that vibrational offering ever happens. There are no victims. Nothing ever happens outside of vibrational countenance. We've been talking about the art of allowing for some time, and we have never seen a greater opportunity for physical beings to get their thoughts around such a subject than now, or a greater reason to do so.
And just one last closing word. From a soothing perspective, from an Abraham inner being perspective, then you could use your words like delicious and all those fun words you always use when you describe the physicalness of it, when you look at from the global perspective and all the rockets that went off. You would use those adjectives?
Give us more specifics, because it's very important when many are looking at something from their different vantage points that we're talking about the same thing. When many people, or even one person, make their transition into non-physical, there is always an extraordinary celebration, because the release of resistance is really worth celebrating.
No, I meant just the rockets of the desire and the direction of the evolution of the planet, or of however we evolve, or however the universe is evolving.
Yes, now we can talk about that just a little bit, but before we do, we are not wanting to follow the track that says this horrible thing happened for a reason, and now the benefit of this horrible thing will be experienced by so many of us. Because that implies that bad things have to happen in order for growth to move forward, and that is not true. This is what happens when there is powerful, 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 powerful desire, and no understanding of how to allow it and allow it and allow it. And so the stakes get bigger and bigger as the desire gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and the resistance gets stronger and stronger and stronger, until eventually there is a powerful rocket of desire that is launched. And that's what happened there. You'd have to understand the intensity with which this rocket was launched. And we're not talking about the handful of people that commandeered those planes. We're not even talking about the network of people that were behind them, that were supporting them. We're talking about the world's trauma and the world's trouble and the world's injustice and the world's disharmony. In other words, these people were just actors channeling the extraordinary discord and vibration that was being raised, you see. And so, yes, it is an extraordinary release. When the rocket finally goes and the pressure builds to that extent, now all allowers who understand about allowing, who now turn their attention to the desire that is born out, all of that, magnificent things happen. But we are so much wanting you to understand that you do not have to have these disastrous culminations in order for there to be constant, steady, joyous evolution and motion forward and expansion of this universe. You did not say from your broader non-physical perspective, I'll go forth and be at war eternally in order to expand the universe. That's not what you said, or anything even like it. You said, I'll go forth and I'll choose my preference from all of that, and I'll keep lining up with my source once I've chosen my preference, so that the things that I'm desiring can continue to be, and I will joyously allow all others to do the same thing. It's in man's not understanding of that he fears what others are doing. That's what's at the root of all of this, and this is the value that we believe will begin to spring forth from it. We're hearing it. You're beginning to hear it everywhere, too. And what it is this. You've heard us say this as you've been listening to us for a while, but it is certainly appropriate here. If you understand that as you think and feel, you are offering a focal point, a attraction point that actually causes your life to play out in the way that it does. In other words, once you understand law of attraction, then, and only then, are you able to allow others to attract unto them whatever it is they're choosing. But as long as you believe that someone can assert something into your experience, then you're going to stand in that